Hello everybody, welcome to today's live stream. I am Adam and I'm here with Daniel. Daniel, say what's up.
Hello, hello.
How are you today, Daniel?
I'm good. I'm excited. We haven't done one in a while since our beat making session, I think. So
That's right,
let's
yeah.
jump into Relic.
This is the first release live stream we've done since The Guitarist, I believe. So yeah. We wanted to try something new where, historically we did a live stream on the day of the release, which is cool to show you guys what's new in the instrument, but it doesn't really give you an opportunity to gather your thoughts or to try it yourself. So Relic has been out for maybe 2 weeks now. I don't know exactly. But we're going to now dive into it just as we did in the other live streams, show you what we like about it, what's different about it, what it's for. And in the chat, if you did already have questions or feedback or comments about Relic, then you could already engage with us and we will address whatever you say. Speaking of which, I don't have the chat pulled up. So Daniel, do you have a way to view the chat?
Do.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I got it.
So yeah.
So whenever you guys have a question, just put it in the chat. Also, we are giving out a license for Relic again. So just be active in the chat. And at the end, we will pick a winner. So it's definitely worth it.
That is true. Yeah. And by active in the chat, all you have to do is either ask questions or show your support or give feedback in a message. And then you'll be entered into a random selection at the end of the stream. So with that, let's dive into Relic. I have it open here, you'll see. So now Relic is one of 4 pianist titles now. And it's actually the only one that is an upright piano. So it's a recording of an upright piano. And it's processed and tuned in a very specific way. And so the vision of Relic was to fulfill the need for that sort of characteristic, almost worn-in upright piano that's almost a little detuned, a little wonky sounding, but still sounds really good and emotional. So a lot of references are like Tom Waits. There's a video of like who was sitting at the piano. I'm forgetting already who that was. Was it Lady Gaga?
Martin?
It might have been Lady Gaga. But basically this worn-in upright piano that you might find in a studio, you might find in an attic with dust on it, you might find in your grandmother's house, but somehow its tuning has aged very well and it's been worn in a bunch, and everything you play on it is just super expressive, and it's really good for songwriting. So it's really popular for like writing indie music or pop music or alternative, like anything really that would require
You know what's funny about that?
Yeah.
So everything that Adam just said was the initial vision of Relic, to be like this image of a piano that you might find in an attic or something, or like he said, from your grandmother. And the funny thing is, those of you who've watched the product video where we visited Martin in Berlin, the producer, the piano he has in his studio is exactly that. He literally has it from his grandparents, that he was like, as a kid, it would sit there and he would just play with it. And then, when they passed away, he actually got the piano and put it in his studio for exactly that reason. So that's literally what Relic is supposed to capture.
Yeah, and in the name and the imagery, you'll notice it's just about like this treasured piece that is timeless. And we've been chatting a lot. I'm going to play some notes just to get some audio flowing.
Yeah. Show us.
So this is just straight out of the box initial preset. I haven't touched anything. This is just the style that's active.
I think that's important to mention, though. That is the style playing it right now, that it's not you playing. For those who don't know Virtual Pianist, I think that's worth mentioning, that we have the play on instrument mode, but we will run through all that.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, so the styles are basically the MIDI kind of songs and MIDI phrases that are playing. So if you look over here in the right range, I'm just pressing one note, and it'll interpret up on you can see it on this feedback display. It'll interpret chords out of those notes. But I would imagine most people here actually already are familiar with that a little bit. So I'm just going to skip through some presets just to hear a little bit of what it can do, and we can get some conversation rolling about Relic. Like I can already hear these kind of, I know exactly the demos that people are writing with this kind of style, you know?
That one too.
Yeah, I think someone in the chat, maybe it was in the waiting room, they said something about wanting to see how Relic could be used to like start a song. And this is like, yeah, I don't know, maybe it doesn't resonate with that person, but hearing these things, I'm just like, oh, this is already a song concept.
Right, exactly.
I can put,
the phrases are very, very good.
They're like iconic.
And already we already have a question. Roger is asking what piano Relic is modeled after. I don't think it's not modeled after a specific piano. It's more like the type and the vibe. And so it is an upright piano.
A little background, actually. Yeah, I think it was a Yamaha upright, but the thing to note is that we had Alice, who works for us at UJAM. She's actually a professional piano tuner. And so when they set up to record Relic, she went in and she did a custom tuning to make it, you know, there's this really detuned characteristic about this upright that's not as clean as a grand piano. Because it's supposed to be worn and aged, there's almost an art of doing that well, because it could sound very dissonant or bad out of context if it's purposefully detuned a little too much. So she was telling me that there's like, she followed a different detuning but like approach to every octave and section of the piano. So like basically the mid-range octaves, she detuned them tastefully in one way, but in the upper octaves, she did something different. And it's because there's, like I said, it's an art to get it to sound cohesive without being without feeling out of tune. And that's really what gives it the character. And she was saying also that the lowest octaves don't even have fundamentals tuned, like because the strings are so different on an upright piano. I guess the strings are so short that they're not even like, the lower notes are even more detuned or a little unpredictable. But but they sound cohesive ultimately because that was the vision that was executed. So yeah, but I think to answer the question, I think it was on a Yamaha. I could be wrong, but I think it was an upright Yamaha. But they tuned it to get it to be exactly as we wanted.
It wasn't about a perfect replica, I think, of exactly that piano, but more about the vibe that we wanted to deliver. So
right, for sure. Yeah, so let's hear a couple more presets. I'm just jumping through the intro category. For those of you who aren't familiar, our products usually come with an introduction category, which are just presets that do exist in the other categories, but they're curated in a way so that when you step through them, it's a nice first impression of what the instrument can do. So there's a lot of variety.
Good representation of the sound.
I remember when I heard this one, I was in love with this one. This one's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, the styles are amazing in this one. I mean, so fitting to that kind of sound.
Yeah, like I can imagine songs immediately. And also, just another reminder about the phrase key switches at the bottom here. These are toggles that select what phrase is being played, and they go up in intensity. So I've so far just been playing the 4th out of 6. So you'll notice they get more intense, like this is this one. But if I go up to the most intense one, and then the softest one. So I think the first 3 phrases in Virtual Pianist are actually just the right hand, and then the next 3 contain both hands. And then they also go up in intensity, and the parts change a little too. So just to keep in mind, I'm playing something kind of in the middle here to get a good grasp of what the style is without being overkill.
Oh wow, that sounds trippy.
Yeah, super detuned kind of honky tonk. This one would sound cool with like a ragtime song.
That one sounds crazy. Yeah.
Or the... Yeah, it's funny. Cool.
Should we do an overview of like how the plugin is structured?
Yeah, let's jump into the structure. So again, this is the same as other Virtual Pianist titles, but we will go through it briefly in case you aren't familiar. So there's a player and instrument mode. We were just going through how the player works. We can dive more into that in a minute. Like there's drag and drop. There's a couple of features about the player mode. But so what you just saw me do was I jumped to instrument mode, which actually disables the phrase player, and it allows you to fully play the piano. Every single note is in your control now, as you would expect from a piano instrument. But so up here, the base of the sound, I'm going to turn off the effects modules. The base of the sounds comes from these 5 character models. So basically there's a set of recordings that we do. We do a boatload of recordings in different ways, but then they get batched and organized into these 5 different almost visions of how that piano could sound. And so they range from kind of softer and more emotive to more aggressive and bright. But so it's not just EQ filtering. There's a lot going on. These characters also have like noise controls. So how much pedal noise, how much hammer noise, mechanical noise.
Different mic positions too, right?
Yeah, different mic positionings, different mic types, I think even. So basically, the characters are not just EQ filters. You're basically getting different versions of this piano. And so I'll quickly play through what those sound like here. So this is subtle. Oh, my sustain pedal's not working. It's backwards. Hang on one sec. Oh, that was the power. So this one has a nice soft sound already, you could tell. Bear with me, my sustain. Sometimes you got to replug it in to invert the polarity. I don't know why.
You do your thing, but in the meantime, be active in the chat because we will raffle out a license for Relic at the end of the stream. So be active, ask questions, and we'll pick a winner.
Yeah, I got to invert the switch. Yes, good point.
While he does that, I'm gonna just freestyle. No, I'm not.
Yeah, Daniel's gonna rap about upright pianos.
Exactly. I'm gonna rap about my favorite piano.
Okay, there we go. Now it's fixed.
Sweet.
God bless the polarity switch on the bottom of the sustain pedal. Okay, so yeah, this is the subtle character, as I was saying. It's super soft, and it's very expressive. And then so you have a balance fader here that you can use on top of any of those characters. So it makes it just a little darker, a little brighter. So you can get a really dark sound out of this, actually. But yeah, so that's subtle. Let's go to round. So you can hear it's like a little more full, but it's like, it almost feels round somehow. It's like more full in the mids and...
Good description.
But it is still soft. And then you go to full. To me, this is sounding more like an actual just upright, like a raw kind of neutral. And then you go to room. How does the room sound?
Probably with mics placed further away as well.
Yeah, this sounds more like realistic, kind of like Daniel's playing in front of me. Tonk. Let's see. This must be kind of a, yeah, like a much brighter, slappier sound. Yeah, so those are the 5 characters, and basically the flow of the plugin, it kind of goes left to right signal flow. So you pick a character model, that's the base of the sound. Then you can tweak it a little with the dark light. And then you have effect modules. And so if you're unfamiliar with finishers, that's one of our UJAM kind of signature effects. It's a multi-effect, which basically means that we can curate any desired aesthetic or effect and build it with multiple effects in a chain with automations and modulations, and then basically expose that as just a single control to the user. So basically, we have these custom effects that are built with one knob, so you can just dial them in. So this one's called Budget Megaphone. Very cool. And you can hear that it's actually doing a lot of things. So there's EQing, there's filtering. I hear spatial things happening with this one too.
Yeah, there are a lot of multi-effects underneath the hood that are just controlled by this one button, which also there are some in there that can take it to totally different levels.
Let's do that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so as always, you know, we like to make sure you have what you need in these instruments, but you also have what you might not need or didn't know you needed. Right. So there's a lot of simple effects. You know, you have basic effects here. Transform is a little bit in between. You know, it can get cool, like staccato. Like these are still usable effects. They're kind of like, maybe I just want my piano to be shorter. That's still cool. But then you go to remix and they get crazy. And that's, there's a lot of, you know, there is a lot of, or I'm sorry, no, transform is the crazy one, my bad. Yeah, transform is the one that'll kind of totally change this thing from a piano to something else. But so the ambient section is another effect module that comes after the finisher in the signal flow. And this is where you'll find your wet effects. So some of them are more creative. So you have rooms and reverbs, you have delays and echoes, but then you have combinations that are modulations and combinations of reverbs and delays and echoes. So these are kind of more like finishers, but they're wet, they're ambience finishers. So if we just go through some reverbs here, let me turn this off. That's cool.
Also, if anyone wants to try it out, you can download the free trial on our website. Just gotta make an account, and then you get a free trial. You can mess with it, and then decide if you like it or not. How do we come up with names for presets and finishers? I think it depends on who works on it. The products I work on, I want to make sure that people who buy them or who use them know that the person behind it knows the genre. Like that was always important to me, like with Cozy and stuff like that. With this one, I can only guess.
Sorry, I'm getting lost in the creative. This.
You do your thing, and it's just my background sound while I'm talking.
Yeah, the names
Yeah,
of
it
the
sounds
effects and
similar.
stuff are, so some of the effects are straightforward. Like if it sounds like a room or whatever, if it's whatever bass reverb model it is, and then whatever character it has. So like tile room, dark room, those are normal. The effects are usually simple naming so you know what they do, unless they are more creative, because then we kind of invented a scene with this effect. So you'll have things like outer space or inverted pitch clouds. Like let's see what this sounds like. So yeah, I mean, you could tell it's starting to do its own automations. It almost sounds like it's reversing my input. The notes kind of died and then it started. So the name, you could see where the name's coming from, but it's definitely more creative. Indecision, boomerang, alienated. So the more creative it is, the more, I guess, loose the naming is, and the more creative we are with the naming. The preset naming is similar. I mean, it depends on if there was a vision for the preset. Like if it's like little speaker, let's see what that sounds like. So it's as I would expect. It sounds almost like it's a megaphone or like some kind of speaker.
Old radio.
Yeah, but so I bet there are some in here that I have no idea about in terms of like ice choir. Let's see.
I want to hear Ghost Town.
Yeah, Ghost Town. Nice, like an atmosphere.
Yeah.
This is
See, and that's what I like because of the finishers and all that. Like you can make it sound like, yeah, so like not what you would expect from piano. So that's kind of cool.
This is reminding me, this aesthetic, I think I'm realizing now, the infamous music from the game Minecraft. I don't know if you guys are familiar.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. You're totally right.
It's all just, I think, an upright piano. I knew it was a piano.
Damn, you're right.
But like when I turn off like the ambiences, like, wasn't there a song that goes like?
Yeah, I think when it gets dark or something like that.
Yeah, it gets all really moody, and these are all really reminding me of that. Like, so yeah. Anyway, I was just thrown back, nostalgic. This thing can have a crazy effect on your brain. It's cool. But yeah,
click on. Can you go back? Sorry, one more time. Go to to the main menu and go to master. Do we have?
Yes. So we've actually introduced a control in Relic that was requested, and basically just on feasibility when you're using Virtual Pianist in a production, and then you enter the mixing stage, the mastering stage. It was becoming apparent that not having control over the added noise samples was a little troublesome and problematic, because sometimes one of the characters would sound great, but then if you really compress it or you master your track, the noise can kind of creep out more, and it's not really ideal sometimes. So we did add a pedal noise control. I'm trying to see if it'll be audible. I actually haven't tested it yet either myself. I'm also using my pedal. I'm trying to see if my pedal's working right.
So we didn't have that in the previous.
No. So in the other titles, actually, and I think we'll try to add it to the other titles because it's just a feature you want. Yeah.
I didn't remember that. That's why I actually asked.
Yeah.
Okay,
So if you go into score, it was just dynamics and tuning, which again, I'll explain what that does anyway. But the master section is basically just details you might want to control that are not everyday important, but like. So dynamics is an interesting one because it's basically just how realistic the piano is, and by default you would probably want it to be realistic, so it's all the way up. So in other words, you have maximum dynamics. It behaves the most dynamically. And then if you turn it down, you basically are starting to remove some of that realism. I think it's removing maybe round robin sample layers, maybe velocity layers. It's basically just getting more compressed dynamically, not audio-wise. So it's less responsive to how hard I'm hitting it. It's always going to sound loud. So you get one dynamic out of it if the dynamics are turned all the way down, but you get many more dynamics if you turn them up. So by default, that's always up. I personally never turn it down because I want a piano to feel real, But yeah, and then tuning just alters the global tuning of the piano. So if you want to shift the whole relative tuning of every key, that's how you would do that.
Which if you automate it, you can also do some trippy stuff with that.
Yeah, I'm sure here. That's right. Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
cool. Yeah, but so anyway, yeah, so the pedal noise, I also wonder if it's more noticeable in certain characters too, but I didn't hear it really. Oh, okay, there it is. Yeah, you can hear. So this is just my
Yeah.
pedal.
What?
Can you hear this noise?
Yeah.
When I'm
I think
clicking
so.
my sustain pedal, that's the noise we're talking about here. So there's
Mm-hmm.
like this recording of the actual pedal being pressed and released. And if I turn that down, that's the level. So you can get rid of that if you want to now, which is huge, I think. So
Yeah.
um,
What is the? Sorry, that's just my question. What's the busyness slider again? Was that for the styles?
so it does something in both modes. Yeah. So in the styles, if we're in player mode here, and I'm playing a style,
It adds notes or something,
yeah,
right?
we mentioned how this goes up in intensity. So if I go to the max intensity, so the busyness slider is a way, and it's also mapped to the mod wheel. It's a way to get even more intensity out of the phrases. And so what it'll do is it's basically an extension of these phrases. So every phrase has pre-coded busyness. When you dial it up, it'll add more notes to the phrase, but it is specific to the part. So it's not just random, and it's not always the same. So it is just like if you want more busyness, that's why we called it that, because it's like, how else do you describe? You're just making it busier, you know? So here's an example. I'll go to like a moderate phrase here, and I'll dial up the busyness now. So sometimes it's doing more iterations of the same notes. Sometimes it's adding new notes. Let's hear a couple different styles. Yeah.
Man, it sounds so good. I like it a lot, actually.
It's just so real. I could totally get like, I mean, it's the same reason I use Virtual Drummer or whatever I don't play when I produce, because it's reliable that you can like, this is a real piano. It's a real pianist too. So
Yeah.
if you need piano in your songs, then you're totally good.
And that is why we call it virtual pianist and not virtual piano,
Yeah, that's
because
what.
it includes not just the sounds but actually the player.
Yeah, that is the mentality, the notion behind all of our series is you get a world class sample library that was professionally recorded, but you also get a world class session musician. That's the whole point. So yeah, but so busyness in the phrase player mode will add more note iterations and more kind of note flourishing to the phrase. But in instrument mode, it also has an effect, and this is actually one of my favorite like Easter eggs with Virtual
What
Pianist.
does it do there? I'm not even
So
aware, to be honest.
so when you're playing in instrument mode and you add busyness, it basically will start to add, I think, eighth note rhythm offsets that are up an octave. So for
Oh,
example,
okay.
if I hit just the C,
Oh, okay.
and it makes everything you play so much more interesting. Like it makes you seem like a professional pianist. If I go like this versus
That's
this,
wild.
you know what I mean? It's just magical.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I straight up did not know that, so that's damn cool.
no, I actually wrote a song. I wrote a classical piano like meditative song, and it was just a C major 7 chord.
Mm-hmm.
But I just automated the busyness. So as it got up, it was just like, and it like made it super meditative.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, dang.
That's so cool.
I remember I was testing score. I think we were building score with like some dark setting. Maybe not that, but yeah, like literally the actual final song was score with this busyness turned on. Yeah, anyway, nice little tangent. But yeah, busyness in instrument mode, because I remember when we were developing the engine, we were like, that's a great control for the phrase player because it allows you to augment the phrases, but what can we do in instrument mode? And
Yeah, that's such a smart way, because I mean, obviously the slider is there anyways. I mean, you could just make it disappear, but this is such a great addition to it.
Yeah, and then I remember Paul, the developer who sort of invented the phrase player engine for Virtual Pianist. He always has such good ideas, and he makes them come to life so quickly. And he was like, "Oh, I'll just try this thing in instrument mode so it also does something." And I was like, I was blown away. I tried it, and I was like, "This is so actually fun to use." And it does have the same impression. It makes things just busier. It's busyness, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a great
Can you go back
tool.
to the player mode?
Yes, sir.
And then we get the universal voicing. What does that do again on the right?
That's right. So yeah, there's this whole chord section here. So if I'm just playing the player, you'll see a chord readout here. And that shows you what chord the instrument is playing. So not what I'm inputting, because again, this is in dumb mode where I'm pressing one key. And it tells me what the instrument's playing in response. And so if I select a key for my song, it will make informed decisions to guide my input to sound good in that key. So it'll always pick something that'll work in my song. So I'm hitting a G in the key of F sharp, so that's definitely weird. And you can see it's trying something different. It's doing a B5 like inversion or something. But so that the button Daniel just referenced, this informs the way that it's making those decisions. So basically, if you're in a key and I'm pressing different notes, it's going to try to pick a chord based on my notes. And so this is basically the brain of how it's picking the chord. So if I go simple and I'm in a key, it'll mostly just give me simple triad chords or intervals, like fifth intervals. So that's simplified. It's really simple. Universal is the default. It's kind of like if you took simplified but made it a professional pianist, and they might do cooler things. So slightly cooler things, but totally still useful and universal. So you get an A minor 7, an F add 9. So you do still get some triads if they're relevant, like in the chord of C, C major and E minor are kind of just like very good to have in there, but then you do F and A and B, and so it's doing a little bit more. But then you go to complex, and this is more open-ended. So this is even more. This is like if you took that pianist and you had them try to show off. This is kind of what that energy is. So so it has a little bit of like neo soul energy, R&B voicings. It's so I'm just hitting a C now, and it's doing a C6 add 9. That's some inversion of a G7, I guess. Or no, I'm sorry, that's a G7 with a 6 then a 9? I don't even know, actually. But so that's my point. Like, I play piano for my whole life, and I don't know some of this stuff. And so that's why it's like, if you really want a nerdy pianist, yeah, if you're writing like, I remember that feature was really cool in Vibe, because Vibe is like a Rhodes E piano, so it's great for like R&B and soul and stuff. So when you go to complex voicing, it can show off, and it sounds like really
like you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Like I would never play that, and it's amazing because now I can. It's like just cool. Yeah, but so that's the chord voicing button. You have 3 options to pick basically the level of intelligence. By default, it's on universal, so it's kind of medium. Because it's impressive, but it's usable. Yeah, and then what else we got here? So, sorry. So we have a latch button. This allows you to, if you're in player mode and you're playing a phrase for testing, you can latch and it'll stick that phrase. So I don't have to press it anymore. And one thing I actually forgot about the player mode, this ribbon, we call this the real-time note display, and that shows you what the virtual pianist is playing. So the notes are reflected there, but you can actually pick the octave ranges, of the hands. So you've got the left hand and the right hand, and it'll basically start to shift where the pianist is playing. So if I latch a phrase here, we can bump up the left hand and bump up the right hand.
Yeah, that's cool.
You can emulate something like two pianists on a piano, because I don't think anyone can play that like that, but it's cool. And there is a little bit of a tolerance. You'll see the color kind of fades because depending
It's
on the
fading.
phrase, it might have to do something that's a little outside of your range. Otherwise, if it was a
It's
strict
still
cutoff,
accurate.
yeah, if it was a strict cutoff, you would actually be affecting how the phrase sounds. So,
Right.
but yeah, that's a really cool. And you'll notice in the presets, different key ranges
Are selected. Yeah.
are selected or should be. Yeah.
And again, as a reminder, be active in the chat, and we'll raffle out a Relic license at the end of the stream. And if you want to mess with it for yourself without having a license, just download the trial, which I think is 7 days now that you can use it.
7-day free trial. That's right. Same with any of the pianist. If you haven't tried Score, Vibe, or Vogue.
Yeah. That's a good. Sorry, we got a question too. Yeah, you can export you can drag and drop, MIDI drag and drop. Right.
So there's
two patterns.
Two useful things you can do. Yeah. I remember someone asked a question in the waiting room about how to use it in the context of a song. So one thing you can do, which I did, actually no, up here I'm actually just using the player mode. So here, so I have just a drum beat and one of the phrases. But so one thing you can do is basically there are these handles, which I mentioned before. So whatever phrase is selected, you can click and drag those handles into your DAW, and it'll print out the MIDI notes of what it's playing. But so when you use drag and drop, it'll take the most recently played chord. So if I play this first chord, and then I drag it out like that, it'll sound just like that. But if I do a chord change, like over here, over here, and then I take it out, it's that chord. So if you use drag and drop, you have to splice together the chord changes. It's not going to be able to print out the whole phrase you're doing, which is okay. I've done that a lot in my sessions. It's a little more tedious, but you ultimately have more control. But the other thing you can do, which is a newer feature that we've been adding to our instrument, is direct MIDI out. So if you're in player mode, basically the instrument can output the played MIDI and not just what you're inputting. So I can route MIDI into another instrument. It could be a synth, it could be another piano track, it could be any other plugin or instrument that I want to use these MIDI styles for. You can route it depends on what DAW you're in. Not all the DAWs support it actually. And it also depends, I think in Ableton it depends on the format of the plugin. Like Audio Unit I think doesn't work, but basically that's a DAW support thing. So we have it in our plugins, and if the DAW supports it, then it'll work. And I know it works in Ableton, I think only with VST, and I only have the Audio Unit installed for some reason, so I don't think it'll work for me. But basically you'd go into track view of your DAW, and you would select, like if this is the track that I wanted to affect, then I could select MIDI from Virtual Pianist, and then basically send the MIDI. But it's not
good.
Yeah, it's not going to work because I've tried it earlier with the Audio Unit, and for some reason I install a lot of development builds, so I might not have the released version that has VST in it. So, but yeah, that's if you want to keep the full phrase, including your chord progressions, I would do direct MIDI out to another track. Otherwise, you can drag and drop and customize. Yeah.
Sweet.
But let's see. Did we miss anything with Relic?
I mean, there are a bunch of phrases, a bunch of styles.
Yeah, the styles and standards preset category is cool because it shows you how like basically we have 30 or so styles, and they're basically different types of like songs. They're different energies, different aesthetics. So in the styles and standards category, if you really wanted to just hear what parts Relic contains in the styles, that's a good category because basically none of the effects are overkill. We basically designed them to say like, hey, if someone were to use this style, let's make it sound as good as possible. So this is a very clean category to step through so you can hear just what the parts are.
Dance together.
Go up in intensity there.
Do you know if MIDI out works in Studio One? I'm not familiar with Studio One, so I don't know.
I don't know. I think it does. It would be in VST, I think, but I'm not sure. I actually have never used Studio One. There's a
Me
list. I
neither.
think we have a knowledge base article that lists, or even in the manual of Virtual Pianist, I think we added where
I
it'll work.
think, yeah, I think you might be right.
Actually, no. The manual just says consult your DAW's manual, because that is true. It
mm,
is a DAW feature, like I said. So I'm trying to remember. I think it works in Logic and Ableton. I think it does work in Studio One, but we'd have to check. Yeah, you can also just do a Google search of can I do direct MIDI out in Studio One,
mhm.
and if so, because like I said, it's a feature of the plugin. So if the DAW supports it, then it's good. But if it
Someone
doesn't, then
asks, is Relic more advanced than the other player? Yeah, it is in regards to the master section, I think. I think other than that,
yeah.
it has the same features, right?
The features are the same, and again, yeah, we did add the pedal noise control, but I think we intend to do that to all of the titles because it just
Mhm.
gives the user more control. So we'll have to edit the other instruments to contain the same control there too. But no, in terms of engine and structure and function, it's the same. So like chord
Yeah.
voicings are working the same way, the key selection is working the same way, and the phrase player is working the same way, and all the controls are the same. So yeah, the only thing that's different really is, well, actually, there's a lot that's different, but the whole bass piano model is new recordings, new sets of samples, new characters, so they're processed and grouped and arranged differently. This slider will work the same in all titles generally. I think it's been tweaked just to make it sound good, but it's doing the same thing. The effects are sometimes different. So sometimes we have a growing list of effects we've designed that we'll start to pull from depending on relevance. So I think most of them will be similar to the other titles, but you might get some new ones. Like, for example,
Yeah.
I know in Score, I was a little less involved in the creation of Relic, so I don't know exactly what the effects are. But in Score, a lot of these were brand new because this was a cinematic, like, film scoring instrument. So we needed much more ambient and experimental effects. So we actually created more. There are still reused effects, but there's some new ones. And then same with ambiances. But yeah, everything you have to worry about as a user in terms of learning to use this thing is exactly the same. So you don't have to struggle with it. But yeah.
Hold up. I'm gonna go through some more questions. How does Relic handle complex chord progressions and dynamic expression? Can you provide insights into the adaptive learning capabilities and how it adjusts to different playing styles?
I don't. Say that again. Read it again, really quick.
Sorry, I gotta scroll up again. How does Relic handle complex chord progressions and dynamic expression? Can you provide insights into its adaptive learning capabilities and how it adjusts to different playing styles?
Okay, so yeah. So in instrument mode, it'll play exactly as you're playing. So I think your question is about player mode, because instrument mode will play exactly as dynamically and exactly as complex as you're playing. So
Right.
in player mode, that's a good point I didn't really go over. So when you're pressing, the number of notes you input, basically the phrase player engine will start to leave you with more control. So if I press one note, that's when it's doing the most deciding for me, because it's like, oh, this user might not know what they're doing, you know? So if I'm pressing just one note on complex, it's gonna pick a chord for me. But if I start adding an interval, if I play two notes, it's gonna start picking what it thinks I want. So basically, the more notes I add, the more it just plays what I play. So if I play a C major 7, you'll see instead of a C6 add 9, it leaves me with a C major 7. A D major 7, C major. So you'll see that it's doing less for me the more that I appear to know what I'm doing. And I think that's what you mean, like, how does it handle complex chord progressions? Like, if you're inputting MIDI or you're using, like in this session here, I have another. So I have full chords playing in the key range. You'll see there's 4 voices, or 5 even. And in this case, it's playing exactly the notes that I'm playing. And I actually did just I stole this chord progression from a chord progression pack, and just for the sake of quickness. And it's playing exactly that. So if you have a complex chord progression, it will play it for you in whatever style. which is really cool. So I think that answers
Another
the question.
One more question. How customizable are the presets for different genres and playing techniques? Well, I mean, you can customize it however you want.
Right. Yeah, so presets,
yeah, there's not...
that's actually a good thing we didn't really cover. So a preset will basically capture everything in the instrument. So it's what characters selected, what effects are selected, how much, also the style. So it'll remember which style you were using. It'll remember the balance of the tone. The only thing it doesn't save is like which phrase is selected, because that's a toggle. So all you need to know is that the preset will capture anything about how it sounds, including what parts are loaded. So yeah, you can customize, granted that the effects offer you what you need, like to make, let's say you're making an electronic song and you want to digitize this piano in some weird synthesized way. If you find a preset that works for that, like this one. Oh, I'm on the wrong instance of the pianist, sorry. This one. So basically what I'm saying is if there are effects that do what you need, they will work in the preset, and you can combine that with an ambience. So there's a lot of options, actually, I would say. Actually, maybe we could just step through a couple of the effects. We didn't really do that, because the effects are pretty cool.
Can you change phrases and sounds independently? Well, yeah, I mean, once you pick a phrase, you can change the sounds, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so the sounds are, yeah, you can play, so basically the upper section up here is the sound. So it's the character, the slider, dark light, the effects, and then the master tunings and whatever.
Yeah.
That is the sound. And the lower section is just the parts that are being played. So you can then change the style and the sound will be the same. So just the MIDI's changing, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't feel like there's that much more to cover. So
no,
if there are no new questions, I think just thanks again to everyone being active in the chat, because
we're going to raffle out a winner.
We're going to raffle off a license for Relic. But if
Should I do that now? Let's do that now.
Yeah, are you doing that, or Simon? You can, yeah.
I'm doing that. Okay, I'm going to spin the wheel. So fingers crossed, whoever's going to win a license now. It's spinning, it's spinning, it's spinning, it's spinning. It is Julian Springer, just won a license.
Congrats, Julian.
So send us an email. Or, Julian, if you already have a UJAM account, send me your email that you used for your UJAM account, and I will actually add the license to it, either later tonight or tomorrow morning.
Congrats again. And for everyone else in the chat that's been active, definitely check out the free trial. See if you like Relic, see if it's for you. And if it is, you, I think, still have intro. Is the intro pricing happening still? I don't remember.
I think, man, I could be wrong. I think so, though.
Check out the site, because whenever we release products, for the first like few weeks, I think there's a reduced pricing for intro pricing.
It is. It's still going.
Yeah, so there's an intro pricing, and then if you own another pianist already, like if you own Score, Vibe, or Vogue, even just one, you'll have an even reduced pricing. I think that's called the loyalty pricing. So that is, yeah, so in other words, go check out the shop, because you might be able to get Relic for a very good price right now.
Yeah, I think we're good, right? I think we got everything. And if you guys are interested in more live streams like that, please let us know. And also, if you have, like, I don't know, specific ideas for live streams, specific plugins that you want to see us like whatever combine or something like that, please let us know. We're definitely interested, and because we like doing those sessions, it's kind of cool to have like instant feedback. Yeah, so right now the loyalty is 49, regular right now, I think, because the intro price is 79.
Sweet.
Cool. Then I think we're good, right?
Yeah. Thank you all for coming out.
Thanks for tuning in, and always fun. Thanks, Adam. Always fun to do these with you.
Thanks for hopping on with me. Yeah. We'll catch you next time. I'm not sure. We aren't sure what the schedule is for the next live stream, but it might be. I know we're due for another production live stream for Daniel's turn. But yeah, we'll see. But we'll see you all there, hopefully, if you're available.
Right.
Keep in touch on socials. That's usually where we share our live stream schedule. So thanks again for joining us today, and we hope you have a good rest of your week.
Exactly. Have a good one. Thank you, guys.
See you all. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
You said you can't drive a car looking in the rearview mirror, and you can't follow your heart unless deep down you're a believer.
Maybe things will just fall into place when you throw them into the air, and it's written all over my face, I want you to stay. Baby, I don't wanna waste one more night. I don't wanna tell you goodbye again. Don't you understand? This is it. Baby, I don't wanna waste one more night. I can't wait for this one more time again. Don't you understand? This is it.